Welcome to Too Deep, Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host, Pete B. I've got Sam Jesse here, and it's my pleasure to introduce a special guest. Jonathan French from the Key Play has joined us. French, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me again, and looking forward to talking about some positive stuff after the last couple of years.
You know, we've had you on the last couple Decembers, and there's always reasons to be excited, whether it's the portal or the season that we just finished when we had the Tulane game or whatnot. But yes, right now, the new era, James Franklin coming in, it's a great time to have you here. And also a lot of new players coming into the program. And that's what we're going to talk about, because French has been doing film reviews and recruit breakdowns at TKP for over a decade. I remember watching a national championship game with you at First Down in Arlington. I think it was almost 10 years ago to the day right now when Alabama won. With Joe and many others. And TKP does great work. So we're excited to have you on. We're going to get into the recent commits, ask you about the recruiting class, maybe about some scheme stuff as well. But first, Sam, I need you to kick us off with a cheers.
Yeah, man. I didn't really realize this last time we talked, which was, Monday. We did College Football Monday. Virginia Tech got the commitment of a guy, Javvon Hilson, which we're going to talk a lot about, defensive end from Mizzou. He was a 5-star as a recruit 12 months ago. Like 12 months ago, this guy was a consensus top 100 player, and Rivals had him as a top 20 player in the country and a 5-star. 12 months ago. He hasn't played since then. So I think I'm not going to be, beggars can't be choosers. I'm not going to be picky. In my head, I'm willing to say it. Virginia Tech signed a 5-star defensive end. I'm going to say it right now. As per Sam Jesse from 2D VT Podcast and Sons of Saturday, Virginia Tech has signed a 5-star defensive end.
Cheers to that, man. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested to hear French's thoughts on this one.
I think you're going to be very, very pleased if what I saw on his high school tape is what he can do on a college football field. I'm surprised he didn't get more run at Missouri.
Well, he only had a short period of time. Let me remind the listeners to like and subscribe if you're watching with us. If you like TKP or you like our show, like the video. It helps us out, and subscribe to the channel and follow us on Too Deep on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. I've also got the basketball game on to my side here, because Virginia Tech is playing Stanford right now in basketball, and we had a 7-point lead at the half. Boys are looking okay. We'll update you on that a little bit later. All right, so let's just talk about Sam brought him up in the cheers. Javvon Hilson, defensive end, edge from Mizzou. It happened literally right after we stopped recording. 6'4", 240. He was a 9.78 in the composite. I think that made him 46, top 50 guy in the country in the composite. 4 seasons left, because, as Sam said, he was in the 2025 recruiting class. And he's going to be the most talented player on our roster when 26 opens. When we have our first game, he's going to be the most talented player. Is this the best defensive end prospect we've had in the last 5, 10 years, French?
I'd probably go further than that. Maybe since Jason Worlds. I mean, that really that long. And probably at least the eye test, the initial eye test, you're looking at a guy who has Antoine Powell Ryland twitch, physically much stronger at the point of attack. His pass rush, using a rip move, swim move, wiping hands, getting clear. He's still got some refinement there. But in terms of physical capability, he's a guy that's, 6'4", 6'5", 240, looks bigger, looks like an NFL edge guy, that kind of speed. And then you factor in the scheme stuff. We know what Brent Pry is going to do. It's going to go back to looking defensive scheme-wise, going to look a lot like Bud Foster. You're going to see the defensive ends have to set the edge sometimes. Other times they're going to, cut inside real quickly and spill. He does all of that magnificently. He can get into the gap. The difference between what we've seen with Virginia Tech defensive ends over the last, 15, 20 years, where they've been sort of undersized, they can get in the gap, but if they're not getting through clean, they could, because they're smaller, they could get washed inside, washed outside. This guy doesn't get washed. He keeps his feet active at contact and then can redirect and find the football. He's moving all the time. I'm sitting there watching it going, Missouri must be kicking themselves, or they know something that I'm not seeing on tape. He is the best defensive end prospect I've seen in a Virginia Tech recruiting class since I started covering the team in 2011.
That is incredible to hear. That just got me fired up. And it was interesting because his transfer rating on 247 dropped a ton. It's a 0.87 as compared to a 0.97 in the composite, as Sam said, 6 months ago or whatever it was when the recruiting class was last year. And so, yes, he enrolled early at Mizzou, and so he's been there for a year, and maybe there's some 247 intel, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's the case. I think they base these rankings on a variety of things, and there's no telling what you're necessarily going to get at a new place.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, if this kid was a redshirt freshman and we didn't see him at all at Tech and he was a 5-star, we'd be pretty pumped to have him going into next year. And so I'm gonna lean towards the pedigree.
And again, with those ratings, a lot of those are going to be tied in with level of productivity, because so many of the guys in transfer portal are going for a pay bump because they had a productive season, that are moving up in weight class or moving to a new school for for a number of reasons. And then you've got the guys who were at big programs who didn't play. In this case, he's a freshman playing. Missouri had one of the best defensive lines in the country. There was probably no reason to rush him.
And that's a great point.
They made that play. I mean, they have 3 guys who are going to be playing in the NFL up front, and this is probably a better scheme fit for him.
Right.
Missouri
he's a true freshman on a talented defense, and so he didn't play. Like that's not a surprise, right? Like that's a really good point by you, French. So I'm excited to bring him in. We will move forward. I want to bring up just some of the recent portal departures and returning guys before we get into the rest of the commits. But we had to hit Hilson first because that was awesome.
Yes.
Portal departures: cornerback Christian Williams and offensive lineman Hannes Hammer are in the portal. They will no longer be Hokies, I assume. And then returning, we got big news that Noah Chambers is coming back. That was one of the top guys that we wanted back. Emmett Laws is back. That's good news. And John Love, our kicker, is back. Those are 3 really big pieces. What's your opinion on Chambers, Ben, French?
So I'm incredibly high on Chambers. As soon as I saw him get reps early in the season, and when the team was really struggling defensively, I said, if this kid wasn't a true freshman, he's very clearly the best linebacker on the roster. He's physical between the gaps. You could see that there were still communication issues, positioning, and as the season wore on, he wore down a little bit. But he was him and Robinson at safety were 2 guys who I'm looking at as, out of the potential players to return, those were the 2 guys you had to retain.
And they're both coming.
And they're both coming back. They both are physically, a little more mature than the other, physically mature than the other freshmen in the class. They're physical. They had their bad moments, but keep in mind they're, surrounded by, not so talented players who were kind of thrown together. There were a lot of guys who were learning a new system, and communication was an issue, and you could see some tentativeness creep into their game. But in terms of like flashing upside, those are the 2 guys where you had to bring them back. So a little note I just saw before, I think someone posted on Twitter that somehow Montavious Cunningham's still on the roster. So
I saw that.
There's one return that we hope wasn't going to.
Well,
my God.
Well, I'll tell you, French,
I died on that hill.
There's a body count issue, I think, on the offensive line, and maybe not in terms of filling out a roster, but I think in terms of, we hear the terms all the time, playable depth, right? Like, do you have a 2 deep from left tackle to right tackle? And that's one of our concerns coming into this offseason is like, shoot, this is not a position we've recruited in high numbers over the past few cycles out of high school. It's not a position where we've gotten a lot of guys out of the portal, and it's a position where we've had injury issues. So, I mean, I understand, like, Cunningham hasn't really played up to what we thought he could potentially be at Virginia Tech at, probably at right guard spot, but dude, you just need somebody over 300 pounds to put
And
on the line. I
they
think
were
at this point.
optimistic on him going into this year. We heard like all the right things, and then he was nicked up basically all year. I don't know.
Just kind of vanished. So
yeah,
it's not that they do need to get that depth. I'm hoping they're going to address it. I know we've got one offensive tackle to talk about, and then a good group of freshmen. But it does speak to sort of the overall strategy. The other thing that you notice with all this is these are all guys, using a pro sports terminology. They all have term. These are all guys they're bringing in, but they're not necessarily guys that you're not going to spend time and effort developing. They're not one-off, 1-year guys. So, I think that that's an interesting strategy. I don't know if that's economically, the smarter way to go to address a wider range of depth issues, or, they have belief that they can develop guys and keep them within the program. But it's definitely a trend that they're looking to get guys who they can fit in and they can grow over a couple of years rather than be one-offs.
Yeah, we've
because they've
seen
been
that
burned on the one-offs
from most of them. There's one guy coming in, the cornerback Jaquez White from Troy. We beat out Tennessee to get him. 12 starts last year, 67 tackles, 3.5 TFL, 11 pass breakups. That's pretty excellent. That's a guy that's a 1-year guy, but he could be our starting corner. And so that's a nice piece you want to bring in.
I think they may have both of their starting corners are going to be portal guys, because the other kid from UConn is pretty good too.
You think so? Cam Chadwick, the other corner we picked
Chadwick. Up. So I watched both of them. Both of them had multiple games, or at least one game against an ACC opponent, and didn't look out of place against either of them. With White, true boundary corner. That's what he played at. Very, very similar to Torian Gray style, flip the field, boundary side, playing a lot of press, and then mixing in inside, outside leverage where they're playing off man, but a ton of man-to-man coverage. Really good in coverage, plays the ball well. I'm sure Tech fans are going to, get a little antsy when they run a go route and he turns and has his back of his head facing the football, but he does do that. Really good tackler. Both of the transfer corners are really, really good tacklers, which is interesting. They look like NFL physical, come up and make a play. They'll set the edge. And just like in Bud Foster's days, he blitzed a lot from the boundary. The only thing I didn't like about his game is that he was kind of tentative, especially against Clemson, blitzing off the corner. Sort of tiptoeing in, and you got
talking about White,
and
right
now, talking about White. So would like to see that different, but otherwise, physical, wasn't getting burnt. I don't think he's gonna remind anybody of Kendall Fuller in terms of just completely locking folks down, but he definitely looks much more playable than a lot of the corners Tech has rolled out the last few years.
We've struggled this past season, French. It was a struggle in the back end. Sam harped on it all year long. We need some CBs, and we have a lot of young guys that we can develop, but getting a guy, if you're going to pick a one-off guy, a 1-year guy, this is the position to do it, because we have a lot of talent in the secondary. It's just very green. And so I feel like this is a solid move there. And we have to ask you about Exenor Jr. This is the last guy that came in after Monday, because we've had 4 different commits that happened since Sam and I last recorded. Penn State receiver, 6'2", 220. Maybe he is a bigger body, smaller tight end or something like that if he transitions. But this is a top 247 kid. I mean, this was another high pedigree guy. Did you take a look at him?
I did. Again, he looks bigger than his listed size, but an athletic guy. High school team used him a lot on jet sweeps, wildcat quarterback. He does a good job of going up and winning the football, so you can play him in the slot, you can move him around a lot. Even though his body type is very different, think about a Dalton King. He's not the sharpest route runner. He's not a guy who's going to get a huge amount of separation, but Penn State did a lot of stuff where they're motioning the tight ends. They involve Tyler Warren in the running game and screen game and misdirection and all these little nuances that, get a guy open who can run after the catch. and Exenor and Henderson are both, guys who are probably more run after catch athletic tight ends like Keen is, even though they're vastly different body types. I don't know from a blocking perspective what he brings to the table. So again, he's a guy I think that you could see him on the move. I'm expecting this offense to have a ton of 2 and 3 tight end personnel, even when they're spread out.
We've been talking about that too. Like, it just seems as if we're gonna run the football, have 12 personnel a lot.
Yeah. And so, but an athletic guy, I think he can stretch the field a little bit at tight end. Just the blocking, there wasn't anything on his film that says he's a bad blocker. They just never showed him as a blocker. So it's a bit of a mystery. But again, physically mature looking kid, really big legs. Like he had just big, legs. So he looked like a guy who, if you asked him to block, I think he could be sort of a wing where he's in motion and kicking guys out and that sort of thing would fit. But I expect that they'll use him sort of the way we envision Cam Seldon to be used this past year, but closer into the line of scrimmage, trying to get matchups on linebackers.
You have something, Sam? I felt like you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I felt like during the heyday, like when the Justin Fuente offense was running at its best, especially like those 3 or 4 games that Khalil Herbert had in a row where he was just on the money. That offense was really good when the wide receivers and tight ends who were split out were blocking really well on the outside, because that allowed Virginia Tech to run the infamous jet sweeps, but also kind of the off tackle stuff and those off tackle reads where, instead of a read option where you're reading the dive with the running back and then the quarterback would take it off tackle. Under Fuente, a lot of times Virginia Tech would run, hey, we're like reading the off tackle with the running back, and then the quarterback goes and dives up the middle. Virginia Tech didn't run that as much with Bowen or last year with Monty, but when you have wide receivers and tight ends that can block well and they can block on DBs, you can have yourself an instance where you have a one-on-one with a defensive back on the outside with what Virginia Tech has is a pretty good running back room. And you would take that any day over a one-on-one with a linebacker or a one-on-one with your quarterback and a defensive end on the outside or something like that. So having those tight end, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, but when your tight end or a big wide receiver is a good blocker, that opens up a whole different option playbook that Virginia Tech didn't have the last 2 years because they didn't have anybody who could block on the outside.
And one of the things that you're going to see a lot, I think, with this new offense is you're going to see the tight ends with Virginia Tech setting up to block and then slipping those blocks and going into the passing game. That's how the Penn State offense the last couple of years created separation for the tight ends. Tyler Warren's a great football player, but he wasn't, running Raymond Berry style pass routes. They were scheming things up where he would get matchups and create space through a heavy emphasis on the run game, and then all of a sudden he pops out. Now, I don't know how many times in the Fuente era we waited on the Keen or one of the other tight ends to sort of slip on that inverted veer and wide dump right up the hash, and it was open every time, and just something, it seemed like 90% of the time the throw would never get there and you just pull your hair out of your head. But thanks, Sam, for giving me indigestion for bringing up inverted veer after I had to write inverted veer over and over again for a decade.
And, we only had one quarterback that was really, really good at it in Gerard Evans, but he was very good at it. And
then they wouldn't let him actually option. They predetermined that he was going to run their hand off.
Well, it was the fumbles in the first 2 games of the season got Fuente scared of that action, and so he went towards the other way. But the Exenor as an H-back in Justin Fuente's offense, oh man, that might be something.
Well, dude,
we got to move on.
If you remember back to the Burmeister years, and Burmeister, I think, would have been like maybe not a good quarterback, but like had Trace McSorley energy to his play, and like they wouldn't let him pull the ball. Like it looked like read options, but they wouldn't let him actually choose. I will be very curious to see how truly option heavy this offense is, bringing in a read option offensive coordinator in the guy from Wake Forest, Italian name, Ruggiero.
Ruggiero.
Rogerio,
I
thank you.
I'll be perfectly frank. I don't think that they're going to be quarterback run heavy at all. After watching Grunk Meer,
No,
I
yeah,
don't know
that's
that he
true.
fits
Yeah,
that. There's going to
save the
be a
thoughts on
lot of play
Grunkmeyer
action and a
for
lot of
a couple minutes. Well, let's get to Grunkmeyer in a few minutes.
Yep.
I want to talk about the guys that are committed, and then we're
Mhm.
going to talk quarterback. And I know that the smoke is heavy on Grunk, and we're definitely going to get your thoughts on it in just a few minutes. That's a
Oh, yeah.
teaser for the listeners there. Commits we talked about on Monday: Matt Henderson, edge Daniel Jennings, running back Bill Davis, offensive tackle Justin Bell. These were the four that were committed. French, you hear those four names. Who gets you the most excited from what you've seen or read?
I mean, the one who's probably going to be the most immediately productive is Bill Davis. He's a good running back. He's a 5'9" version of Brandon Orr. He's stout, one cut zone. He's been productive at every level. He's a guy that can step in, and if Hawkins is slow coming back from injury or Overton gets beat up, he's going to be a regular part of the rotation. And if he gets put into a position where he has to be a 20 carry a game guy, he's going to be fine. He just, in this day and age, it's hard to get a running back who understands how to play the position. They hit gold with Tootin. They hit, I didn't expect Hawkins to be as good as he was, but he was honestly the best player on the team last year. And I don't think it was close. Big Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green, was completely underutilized, but similar player to Davis, although Terrion's much bigger than Davis. But I think he's an immediate need who can step in and be the starter, or he's a hell of a good safety net if for whatever reason Hawkins needs more time to recover or Overton's not ready for a bigger role. So I'm really excited about him.
How about
Justin Bell? So this ties in with Grunk. So I'll go ahead and say it, even though it won't be necessarily a review of Grunk. They have to protect the quarterback better, and I keep waiting for that guy left tackle, whoever it may be. So when I saw Bell commit, the first thing I looked for is, can he be a starting left tackle? Because I don't think they have one on the roster right now that's good enough for the type of offense that I think they're going to run. And he's a right tackle. I think he's got great feet. The first thing, I've been coming on for several years, and the first thing I tell you, offensive line, when he makes contact, do his feet stop. If his feet don't stop, you got something to work with. And he is an angry run blocker. Feet do not stop at contact. He's pretty mobile in the run game, really good run blocker in the run game. So I think he has an opportunity to play. I think he'd be an upgrade over Lynch at right tackle, although I thought Lynch got better as the year went on in the run game.
Lynch he's a young player.
He just struggled mightily in pass
protection. He did.
That was everybody. But there's an opportunity. We're creating viable competition, which there hasn't been. So Sam, to your point, at worst case scenario, you're creating higher end depth. From a pass protection perspective, he's a little bit awkward, kind of has a hunch in his back. So he has a little bit of forward lean, lower center of gravity, I think would help him. Probably needs some more time in the weight room. His high school film, he looked pretty skinny for a massive 600, or 6'5", 300 plus
311 was listed. Yeah.
Yeah. So does he add that lower body strength where he can anchor and redirect against quality pass rushing? I think is the big question. But, a positive addition along with, a very robust recruiting class along offensive line. So I think they're trying to address the issue Sam raised while at the same time creating a runway where they can either develop guys, or if they don't make it, they were, not overly expensive where they can cycle them out and replace them.
Were you high on Henderson during the recruitment, being a Virginia guy?
I did not pay a whole lot of attention to him because pretty much they were they're pretty vocal he was going out of state.
Okay.
So, I do live in the Richmond area, but I was paying most attention to Trinity and Benedictine, since those schools tend to produce. And we'll get to Fat Rat Brown here in a second, because I did see him.
We'll get to Fat Rat.
Yeah, here or I saw him in person, but I did watch film on Henderson. He is an interesting case study. He was the number one receiving option at tight end early in the year when Aller was playing. I think 21 of his 26 catches were before Aller's injury. They used him a lot on shovel passes, mobile guy, a lot of run after the catch. Didn't extend the field a huge amount with him, but it wasn't really part of the scheme. I don't think they were trying to. Blocking, he was willing. I think that there's some work to be done there. If Benji Gosnell comes back, he's probably the primary blocking option, but I don't know if that's I don't know what's going on there. The fact that we haven't heard for sure that he's coming back, and they are bringing a lot of tight end bodies, but you can see the upside.
Are you talking about Henderson, or are you talking about Reynolds?
I've got Luke Henderson.
You've combined.
I probably mixed up names.
No, it's all good. I picked up on what you were putting down there.
Sorry.
No, yeah. French was talking about
which highly recruited white tight end are you talking about?
They both have mullets.
They look like twins.
Yeah, exactly. Because Henderson's the one that hasn't played, but he's from Virginia. Henderson's from Virginia. But Reynolds is the one that's been playing. That's who French has just been talking about.
I'm sorry.
And that's okay, man.
But I haven't seen Henderson then. I'll go
and no one really has. Not since the high school.
I watched a lot of Reynolds when I was looking to see how he was playing with Grunk Meer. So, the other tight ends at that point were getting a little bit more playing time, although he had some nice ones.
Everyone knows that we're rumored for Reynolds. Like, we've got the crystal ball from 247 predicting us to be where he comes. And so we're all hoping for that. And I definitely wanted to ask French about him. And so I'm glad he brought him up. Sam, you were going to say something.
No, I think when you're looking at all these tight end depths, like some of these guys, and this is maybe for the entire transfer portal class and then the high school guys they brought in, like they don't need to play day one. I very much feel like with the type of guys he's bringing in terms of their years of eligibility left, they're not guys who are, hey, you're going to play here 1 or 2 years and then you're done. Like, it does feel like he's very much loading up for 2027, maybe more than hiring mercenaries for 2026. And so do we see like how does this team look against Maryland week 3 or whatever they're going to play that game? Like, I'm really not sure, right? I don't know if it's going to look substantially bigger, faster, stronger, more talented than the teams that we've seen at Virginia Tech over the past 3 or 4 years. But I can almost guarantee you that when they kick off in 2027, it's going to be a very different looking football team, because guys like Matt Henderson, like I don't know if he's going to see the field much, right, this year. Some of these other running backs, we
Reynolds, right?
4 running backs, like not if you get Reynolds, right? Like if you get Reynolds, he's probably your 3rd or 4th tight end option.
If we keep Benji,
I don't think.
If you keep
I think unless Gosnell leaves, he's even if Gosnell stays, he may end up being the starter. I can see the upside. It's blocking would be the question. Is he going to be a reliable enough blocker that you can keep him on the field? I mean, as a true freshman,
you're talking about former 5-star Luke Reynolds.
I'm sorry.
We're going to move on from tight end, but I know what you're saying. I think the listeners know what you're saying. He was a 5-star. This is going
to be my new Bruce Benedict. I never got his name right.
They're too similar for you, and I get that. But he's the number 1 tight end in the portal. We want him. We want him. We want him on the team, and we got a stud recruit at tight end coming in, but we know how this is his expertise, and so keep bringing in those former 5- and 4-star tight ends. Let's go to the quarterback, Ethan Grunk Meer. There is heavy smoke that he is going to be a Virginia Tech Hokie. It is not confirmed yet. We had that back and forth on Monday night, but he is at the forefront of our quarterback pursuits. He's rated a 93 in the transfer rankings. He's the 11th best quarterback in the portal. He was the 7th best QB in his class he got better and better, I thought, French. What did you see on film from Grunk Meer?
So, one, I know that the offensive coordinator at Penn State, who had been with Lance Leopold at Kansas, came under a lot of heat. I thought he game planned perfectly for a young quarterback with Grunk Meer's skill set to complement that as much as possible. They ran, I don't know the numbers would play it out, but to me, it looked like they were running 65% of the time. They were leveraging Katron Allen and Nick Singleton really well. So when they asked Grunk Meer to carry the load, you have a lot of situations with play action. You've got a lot of situations where he can spend a pretty good amount of time in the pocket and scan the field. And he needed that because, I think if there's one worry in this discussion, it's, bringing in Penn State wide receivers when the weak point on Penn State's team was offensively was the wide receivers struggled to get separation. So, I think that they schemed things up really well for him. He looked confident. If I had to say his strength, I'm a big fan of, run game ball mechanics for a quarterback. Do they execute their fakes? Are they diving in deep in the mesh point to sell a run fake before they drop back to play pass or to freeze the defense? Do you, then roll out and bootleg into a rushing defensive end so they're not crashing on the dive? He does all those things really well. And then when he gets time in the pocket, he can sit back and layer throws into little holes in the zone defense down the field. His prettiest throws, pretty much all the ones I highlighted from a positive perspective, are 17, 18 yards to 30 yards down the field, in zone coverage into tight windows, throws a pretty ball. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but he puts the ball in a position where his receivers, almost without exception, they either have an opportunity to make the play or the defense doesn't have an opportunity. I think I saw him make one bad decision where a ball got deflected and intercepted against Indiana, and he was just completely under pressure. Penn State did not do a great job of protecting him in that game. Again, in terms of what we've seen at Virginia Tech during our time as fans, I don't know that they have had a quarterback that would have the capability of stretching the field like him until we get back to Jim Druckenmiller, which has been a long time, gentlemen. I mean, that's
okay.
30 years ago.
Well, Sam, we talked about the stretch of efficiency that Grunk Meer had, and you'd have to go back to Hendon Hooker to find that type of efficiency. And you were going to expand on this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different than what we saw from, a Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, where he was just like hitting wide receivers. Like he threw he had 78, 79% completion percentage or something. Grunk Meer, what I'm so impressed with what I've seen from him is there are no just throwaway awful throws. Nobody has a chance to catch it. I think what we've seen from Virginia Tech quarterbacks recently is, hey, a 5-yard out route to the running back, balls at his feet. Go route down the sidelines, you miss him by 8 yards, overthrow him. Grunk Meer doesn't miss like that. He's not perfect. I mean, not Drew Brees. He's not the most accurate quarterback of all time,
but
he's pretty darn good. Right. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty darn good. Does he have Patrick Mahomes' arm strength? No, but it's good enough. And I think that's something. He's not a sexy quarterback. He's not a flashy quarterback. He's not a type of quarterback that traditionally Virginia Tech has succeeded with. But like French said, and like we've talked about, his ceiling is so high almost because of how he doesn't seem to have the catastrophic bad mistakes. He doesn't have the bad throwaways. He always gives the players around him a chance to make plays and succeed. He makes the players around him better. And I'm perfectly fine after what I've seen the past decade outside of 2016.
Man,
boy, run the ball, flip it to tight ends. I don't care. Score, give me 27 to 30 points a game. I don't care. Just give us something. And
take it back.
He's going to be a significant upgrade.
Agree, Sam. Fully agree. And take it back to what French was saying. Druckenmiller, run the ball, play defense, don't let the quarterback kill you. Like that's what we want. And I mean, we've had a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and it worked well for Virginia Tech for a long time. But we've always been a run first offense, almost exclusively for going back for all of our success. And so that's what they're going to do here. And then you can add in the tight ends. And if you have an accurate quarterback who's not going to be a negative, as we've had so many that have been a negative for us over the past decade plus, I love this addition. How did he compare to like Bo Prabula in your mind, French?
So watching Prabula, yeah, and I watched I think 2 games of him. To me, he's much more the type of quarterback that y'all are describing that we've dealt with the last few years. He was unimpressive in the pocket. He's a hell of a runner. He could game manage a little bit, but if you're down, if you need a touchdown in a 2-minute drive at the end of the game, you just know he's going to take a bad sack or make a throw that's just going to kill you. And we've seen a lot of that. And with Grunk Meer, again, in 2-minute situations, he was excellent. Throwing the ball down the field, protecting the ball. I think the 2 things where you have to pause for a minute. Number 1, Tech has to run the ball, and they have to be able to run the ball without the misdirection stuff that we saw, that sort of added space because the offensive line couldn't get it done the next couple of years. They have to be 60, 65 because Grunk Meer is at best play action, and he takes his time in the pocket. You will see him, unlike any Virginia Tech quarterback in a long time, he's going to go to his second and third read. He does that in the pocket, which for a true freshman playing the types of defenses he was playing was really impressive.
He was year 2. I think he was a redshirt, but
Yeah,
he's a freshman. So he's got
first
3 years of eligibility.
first meaningful playing time, you're playing, I think, 3 of the top 10 defenses in the country.
Dude, he lost Iowa by 1. They gave Indiana the best game of their season. They needed a miracle catch to beat Ethan Grunk Meer. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And he is only a freshman. And so he has.
And then as the year moved on, by the time they're playing Clemson, then he's in traditional drop back. He's not doing as much play pass stuff and having success with it. He looked really good. The one guy I wish we could get in the portal, and he's out of eligibility, and I'm forgetting his name, but number 8, he was a transfer from Syracuse.
Pena.
Loved him.
Pena.
What's that?
Pena.
Traver Pena.
And you know what, French? It was the first time. I mean, not the first time, but like one of the few times I can remember watching a Penn State game and be like, "Oh, the wide receivers are making plays." And in the last couple of years,
at least he was.
At least he was. And look at the quarterback. And it's cool because we have Danny O'Brien, who was his quarterback coach through the end of the year. We have Ty Howell, who was his co-OC through the end of the year. That's important. That's really important if he's gonna commit, which all signs are pointing to him being the quarterback.
It'd be a disaster if he didn't. At this
point. Colby Crawford putting his 30 for 30 crystal ball predictions on the line.
Yeah, and we've done 2 podcasts that talked all about him, so we're hoping that he commits. The other quarterback. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the one other thing I want to throw in with him: short throws need to get better. Which is some of the stuff Virginia Tech did do, the quick hitches, screens. He's a little erratic. His mechanics, footwork would get a little off. He'd rush the throws a little bit, especially early in the season. So that's an opportunity for improvement too. But again, if you can run the football and protect him, I think he's going to be a hell of a quarterback. But you have to figure out how to protect him. And that'll factor in the offense too. You're going to see tight ends in motion coming towards the line of scrimmage and just crack back on defensive ends, pass rushing, and then releasing out into the flat. And there's your space. But they're going to, hit them in the ear hole first and make them hesitate a little bit. And that's exactly what you're looking for when you try and create more time for your QB.
We'll see about Bryce Baker. We talked a little bit about him as the other quarterback potential coming to Tech. There's been some whispers that other schools are making a move on Bryce. We'll have to wait and see on that. And we don't need to go into a lot of detail for what could be.
I think Wake Forest was a player for him.
Yeah, Wake Forest was.
Well, Wake Forest went out and got who the Gio Lopez, right?
Wake Forest went after Gio Lopez? I must have missed that today. I'm not
maybe
saying you're
I'm-
wrong. I just haven't heard it.
I've had a busy day. Maybe I made that up out of my head, but
I just know he
that's
was at
in
a
here
different North
somewhere.
Carolina. He was at it. That would mean Bryce and Gio, like they're going after both North Carolina guys. Guys
North Carolina
returning.
transfer quarterback Gio Lopez has signed with Wake Forest. Peter Nakos reports.
Interesting.
Well, maybe he wants to be second.
I'm not
team
going
attack.
crazy.
Good.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, that's good news. That's good information from Sam there.
That's a Florida State ass transfer right there. Look across the sidelines and see that sack of shit.
That's like,
yeah,
let's
that.
That guy kind of stinks. Let's bring him over here. Guys returning. You see this. We talked about Chambers. Mentioned a couple other guys. Who are you like really excited that we're getting back?
With one caveat, and then if he was calling protections, I hope he does a better job this year because they really struggled with whoever was calling pass protections. But I think Kyle Altuner had a hell of a year at center. Something that we have not seen, a center who can handle his business at the point of attack, but most importantly, can get to the second level, cut off those linebackers. That popped a lot of those big runs, particularly for Hawkins. Whereas a little bit of a delay and then one cut and boom, all of a sudden there's a hole there. It's Altuner washing a linebacker out of the hole. So I think he's a key component. I'm glad that they're getting the offensive line back. I know, again, pass protection was a disaster, but from a run blocking perspective, they were fine last year. They were as good as any. The inability to pass the ball after getting a 5-yard penalty and you're in 2nd and 9 after driving it down people's throats is what killed them. It wasn't the run game, but there's times you get behind the sticks and you can't rely on the run game. Hope Paul Johnson's listening to that one. So, getting the offensive line back and then supplementing it with higher end guys to drive competition. Hopefully Lucas Austin can take a step forward. Hopefully Garrett, who's probably better suited for right tackle than left tackle, maybe you can move him over there. I'm really interested to see if they get a legitimate left tackle.
We have to grab a couple more bodies in the portal. I don't know how high end they'll be, if they'll be more of the Justin Bell types, just not that he's not going to be good, just that he's unproven. Like, will we get some proven talent?
Find a guy with the clay. Find a,
Right.
Josh Nijman had the clay. Can you get a guy who has that skill set and deal with, maybe he's going to struggle early. That's where those tight ends chipping and those things can help you. But find a guy with high upside that can play the position.
What are your
thoughts? They did not have a guy on the roster that looked like he could ever in his life play left tackle at a high level. And that has to be
I would agree with you on that one. How about Copeland? What are your thoughts on Kamari Copeland?
So when he was good, he was really good.
Yeah.
I think he got a little worn down at times, and maybe the negative atmosphere around the defense and the inability to get stops. There were moments where it looked like his motor wasn't all the way there. Old Dominion, of course, everybody.
Yeah.
If the rumor's true that he's the highest paid defensive tackle in college football, that kind of makes me a little. I've seen that.
I don't really know that at this point, but there's rumors that he got paid handsomely.
Yeah. He's a very good player. The idea of him on one side and a guy who's a little more stout in the gap inside of Hilson, so you can turn Hilson loose on the edge, is very, very appealing. I think we talked last year. I really liked him at Laws, and I was kind of disappointed that he didn't get more run this year. And I don't really have a good explanation for that. But I think he can be a productive player. So, and defensive line really, other than, generating pass rush from defensive ends, defensive line wasn't bad last year. There were much, much bigger problems. So, getting Copeland back is fine. But, if you're thinking with a salary cap mentality, the one thing you got to stay away from is you can't eat up too much of your salary cap with a guy who's not going to be an absolutely elite difference maker. And Copeland made plays. I think he's really good. I don't know if he's, maybe Tim Settle you pay
You want to see the consistency, or
covered.
He wasn't an Peoples in your eyes.
Yeah. He wasn't as good as Aeneas Peoples.
Yeah.
He's not. You know, but that's like comparing Thurman Munson to Johnny Bench. It's not fair to Thurman Munson. Thurman Munson's a great player, but Johnny Bench is Johnny freaking Bench.
God, French, I love you, because half our listeners are not going to
they're
that reference
hopefully
at all.
Half our listeners should know who Johnny Bench is at least.
Well, that's
right?
true.
I mean,
I'd hope so, but you know, there's really good, and there's the best defensive tackle Virginia Tech has had since Bruce Smith, you know, maybe in the conversation with Tim Settle with Aeneas Peoples. So
yeah.
But he's not like a first team all ACC caliber guy. Can he be? Well, we'll see. I certainly hope that he is.
That's what they're paying for. And you know, one thing about Kamari that like his flashes of what he can do at defensive tackle are something that Virginia Tech does not. No one else on the roster has that, and they weren't going to be able to get a guy in the portal who did that. So if you wanted a defensive tackle that does something like that, and you got one in the building, you probably got to pay him a good amount. And I know like Miami was really after him, a few other big programs. So like that might have just been a necessity play in terms of the dollar value. Obviously, he seems like a great locker room guy and hard worker, and you want him on your team.
Absolutely.
But like the NIL figure, like trying to play the salary cap game with this, I don't know.
Especially when we don't know what the salary cap is.
Right. Exactly. Like it
depends on how many more donations we get over the next couple months.
There you go. And the only comparable player that they could have plugged in to give, you know, similar style and production was the kid from Wake Forest, who everybody in the country wanted. So
yeah,
you know, that's a tough pull.
That's the kid that ended up at Texas Tech, right?
Yes.
You know,
and apparently Texas Tech is playing with silly money right now, because seems like them and Indiana all of a sudden are getting everybody. I never thought I'd be saying that 2 years ago.
It's crazy, right? All right, so let me take a second to just mention that this show is brought to you by Roback. You can see the code on the screen. It's 2DVT. That'll get you 20% off at roback.com. They have the great polos, so many Virginia Tech styles, the hoodies, the quarter zips. You guys know it by now. We talked about it all season. And Compass Coffee. It's a great coffee shop. They're doing some restructuring, but their cafes are open, and you can use code 2DVT for 20% off. You can still order coffee online direct to your door. It's great coffee. Doesn't have to be complicated. Use code 2DVT at compasscoffee.com. Recruiting class time, French. I know you went deep on some of this stuff. In the 247 composite, Virginia Tech has the number 24 recruiting class for 2026 as of today. 2 weeks before signing day, we were at 124. So Franklin came in, he grabbed the 4 stars, the top 11 recruits in the class committed in the final 2 weeks there. And the 23 total commits with an average of 88.34 beats out our 2024 class as the best average per recruit in terms of their rating. You can definitely say that this is the best recruiting class potentially of the modern era. Now, this is recorded, you know, because if you go back, we don't have what it was in 99 and the early 2000s. But from what we have recorded, this is one of the best, if not the best. We got 9 kids from Virginia, 1 from DC, 1 from Maryland. So definitely hitting the footprint. We want to talk about the skill players, the lines of scrimmage. Where do you want to start? What guy on this stands out to you in the class?
Well, I think first, position groups. Franklin understood the problem. Offensive line, loaded up. Linebacker, loaded up. So the 2 biggest donut holes on the team, address those. So, you know, the kid from Michigan, is a pulling guard, nasty. He's great footwork. You have a viable left tackle guy that you can develop with the kid from New Jersey. And I apologize.
You were talking about Benazuki, the kid from Michigan.
Benazuki, the pulling, a lot of mobility at guard. He's a little shorter and stouter than most of the other recruits and the guys that Matt Moore has used, but it gives you that ability to run power schemes and have him as a pulling guard, counter trays, kicking guys out. And he's that guy. Again, great footwork. Left tackle from New Jersey.
Is that Marlon Bright, or is that
Marlon Bright?
Yeah.
Very mobile, would like to see him be more physical. But when we talked about getting that blindside protection at left tackle, he's a guy who has that skill set and can be developed. He's smooth, good anchoring. He's just not a guy who's real dominant at the point of attack. He gets it done, but he's not making your eyes pop. But he's mobile again, feet. And then a sleeper guy. I know a lot of folks like the Purgatory Kid because of his nickname, but the guy that Franklin retained from South Carolina, or from not South Carolina, but from Eastern North Carolina, Simpson.
Tyrell Simpson.
Absolutely massive guy.
Huge.
Very, very raw, but he's got unbelievable feet. His first step into a gap and then going towards the linebacker, he looks like a sprinter coming out of the gates. And he's a huge guy. Played basketball, during the off season, really mobile. He's just really, really raw. And, I got really excited, a few years ago. You get this unknown kid that only has an offer from Delaware State and didn't look like he had any idea what he was doing, but footwork and mobility. This kid has footwork and mobility similarly and is much bigger.
And you're talking about Christian Darrisaw.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Darrisaw. I figured that would
just clarify.
I figured I said it,
but yeah.
But the Simpson kid is a guy that 2 or 3 years down the line we could say, man, what an awesome right tackle he could be. And he may end up washing out, but that's the kind of guy that I get excited looking for.
What do you think about us taking all these tackles? Like almost every one of these recruits, whether it's Wilder or Bright or Lubintis or Cochran, Simpson, they're all tackles.
Yeah. Did you hear what he was just talking about?
There were no tackles on the roster.
Well, okay. Yes. Yeah. However, do you also think that, and tell me if I'm wrong, recruiting tackles, is it easier to go from a tackle to a guard? Because you really can't go the other way if you don't have the size.
Yeah, I think so. Footwork is so important, and you're not really at most levels of high school football. You're not really being challenged from a pass protection perspective. You can have the skill set, but the minute the whistle blows, are you going to freeze up? Are you going to be able to adjust? And then you find out, and if they can't do it, then you get sort of unceremoniously moved aside, or you move down a level. I think that they took a lot of volume. I don't think Lubintis is going to be a tackle. He'll be inside if he plays at all. I'm not particularly high on him as much. The kid from Benedictine, I think it was Meacham, his last name, 6'7" from Benedictine in Richmond. I saw him play a little bit. Again, positional blocker. Didn't look particularly dominant in the run game. I think he may be someone.
You might be talking about Cochran.
Maddox Cochran.
Yeah, Maddox Cochran.
So he's a guy who very positional blocker, gets his body into the right position, but I'm not seeing him, and it's a very good league, the private school league around Richmond. Darius Gray's going to Michigan as the top interior offense, one of the top interior offensive line country. So it's a good league, but he's a guy who I think we may see move on pretty quickly. I don't know if he is in the program a long time. He just didn't see a huge amount of upside. But you got to get bodies, because
you need bodies. And the only reason I asked that last question was because when you take 5 tackles in a class or whatever it is, like there's only 2 positions and they're all the same age. So you got to figure out. Yeah, you're playing the numbers game, and we're hoping that a bunch of these guys work out on the defensive line and the linebackers. Like, another thing, like Franklin definitely talked about wanting to build out from the lines, and I'm all for that. What are you seeing on the defensive line?
Love T-Ron Richardson, defensive tackle from Hopewell, same school as Trevion Henderson. Explosive through the gap, but 295 pounds, 6'3", track athlete. Good shot put and discus. So he's explosive. On top of it, he ran some 100-yard dash, and I think he ran 110-meter hurdles at 290 pounds, which is, which is something. But he was incredibly active, hard to block. He didn't have a lot of talent around him, so teams could sort of scheme away from him. He was still disruptive as hell. To me, he's, I think he's the guy who, if you don't know football and you see the guy just bursting in the backfield making plays, and you go, "Oh, that guy's awesome," he'll be the one who sort of gets that moniker. I really liked him. The two defensive ends, I think, were projects. Both were sort of Cole Nelson types, long, lean bodies, but they weren't really. The kid from Green Run, I think his name was Cameron Johnson.
You are correct.
Good edge speed, but not real refined. Kind of has to fill out. I think he's going to be end up being sort of a big guy who you can come in and sort of play the run on the edge, but I don't think he's going to be a pass rush guy. I think this class, one of the things that stood out about it is they've got guys who are more outside linebacker size that could be unbelievable pass rushers. I called out John. Is it John David Oates? I know it's Oates is the last name.
Patrick Oates.
John Patrick Oates. Really, they used him almost like a stand-up defensive end, and he'd never played defense before. He had been an all-state tight end at his school there in Pennsylvania. They move him to defensive end, and he had beautiful, explosive off the edge, beautiful technique, understood how to use his hands. I could almost see him playing as a situational defensive end, like designated edge rusher. And another guy who nobody's talking about being a linebacker because he's such a damn good running back, Messiah Mickens. A lot of his film footage is him playing an edge linebacker. And you talk about a guy who can bring it off the edge. If they do the star or whip blitzes where they slant everybody to the boundary, and here comes that nickelback spot, and there he comes. Oh my goodness, he looked unbelievable. And I was like, I'd almost play him at there versus playing him at linebacker, but it sounds like they've got him or playing him at running back.
And our top recruit was for linebacker and Terry Wiggins.
And then you've got Wiggins is an unbelievable athlete. I think that there needs to be a little bit refinement, stronger in the lower body, has weird body language, but you can see he oozes athleticism, really mobile guy, very, very physical at the point of attack. And then you match him with Matthew Lama from here in Virginia, who is a Bruce Taylor type of Mike. Big, physical. He fills the A gap. Loved his tape. The only worry about Lama, and I hope I'm saying his name right. My apologies if I'm not.
You are.
But my only worry about him is, does he have Power 5 speed? Because he didn't look really quick. That doesn't mean he's not.
It's tough with the high school tape sometimes to figure out how fast these guys are.
He was a guy where I wondered a little bit, does he have sideline to sideline speed? But again, Jack Tyler didn't have sideline to sideline speed. Bruce Taylor didn't have sideline to sideline speed, just naming two recent ones. Can he do what Virginia Tech linebackers have not done in the last 7 or 8 years? And that's fill the A gap.
Yeah.
Fill the A gap. Put some, actually attack an offensive lineman instead of waiting there to catch him, like we've seen especially the last few years. And so in terms of the tape of a linebacker, at a traditional linebacker position, I loved his tape. I got really excited. I think Wiggins has much more upside, but in terms of like, if you told me that I had to plug a guy in tomorrow to play, I'd feel better about Lama tomorrow.
So
he looks adult.
They all are big. I mean, it's 6'3", 6'4", 6'3" with Wiggins.
To Sam's point earlier, team, I think this team is going to look very different. Whether they're significantly better is a different question, but they're going to look bigger, stronger, more physical, taller. They're going to look more like adults this year, because all the people that they brought in, definitely even the corners are big. We talked about Chadwick and White earlier. They looked physically mature, where the corners this year that were true freshmen that had to play a lot, they looked like true freshmen.
Four-star wide receiver, Fat Rat, Davion Brown, Trinity in Richmond. He's at 0.91 in the composite. One of the big hauls that we got from James Franklin in the last week. What are your thoughts on him at wide receiver?
So I really wish Trinity had the ability to throw the ball better, because I saw him playing Benedictine as a true freshman. Didn't know he was a true freshman, just went to the game to see two powerhouse teams play. And Trinity's quarterback could barely throw the ball. When he could, it was Davion Brown as a true freshman going up and Randy Mossing people against a team that probably had 6 or 7 guys who were going to play at least FCS football or better. And as a true freshman, he looked like an adult. Can he run routes? I think that's an area for improvement, but you're bringing in a lot of other guys, and you're going to use the tight ends, and you're going to find a slot. I think they're going to, identify a slot guy like Pena who can get open. You want a guy who is going to run a go route down the sideline against press coverage and go up and make a back shoulder catch. Davion Brown is that guy. And the question is for him is, can he build out the rest of his game? Because he was rated as the number 1 recruit in Virginia as a true freshman, and you kind of saw him drop a little bit. And I don't know if that was just Trinity never had a guy who could get him the ball, because when they played Benedictine in the private school state championship, which that entire game is on YouTube. So if you want to watch him every rep instead of just a highlight reel, you can do it. But you're watching it, and they could not get him the football. And it wasn't for anything that he was doing wrong. It was just, either the quarterback was getting rocked or couldn't make an accurate throw, or, had to dump it off because they were getting pressure so fast. It wasn't a good way to, and receivers always the hardest position to assess, because a lot of the tape, you don't see what they're doing.
The quarterbacks aren't very good.
The quarterback's not very good. You don't know the level of competition entirely. So I think he has outstanding physical upside to be a special player. We know he can make 50-50 plays. Can he develop the rest of that stuff that he didn't really get an opportunity to in high school? I think he can. Just go in there and put in the work, and hopefully Fontel Mines is going to be a little better at getting the receivers to create their own space.
We hope so. We hope so, man.
He's great at recruiting.
Man,
can he do that piece of it?
Hey, I hear I don't want to be negative Nancy, but like we're talking about Virginia Tech, one of the big issues wasn't necessarily talent the last few years, it was coaching. Right. And we're talking about all these guys. Hey, we got to coach them up. We got to coach them up. But we weren't happy with the coaching the last few years. And we're talking about linebackers and wide receivers we need to coach up, and we're keeping the same linebacker and wide receiver coaches.
Kind of with linebacker, because
I'm just saying.
Gone. I know. Hey, Sam, I hear you.
I'm just saying.
We've got Pry, who's been our linebacker. He's a linebacker guy. Been a linebacker guy. Under his watch, his expertise, the linebackers were not very good for a number of years. And under Fontel Mines, we've underachieved at wide receiver. So will James Franklin, will his winning attitude or whatever he's bringing to the table trickle down to the positions we need? Will Pry moving back to DC and coaching linebackers specifically now and not someone else be better? Because the first year that Pry was DC, Dax was good. I thought the linebacker play was that was Dax's best season, and he was good. Yeah. So that's what we're hoping for. We've had French here for an hour. We're start wrapping this thing up. French, anyone else from the recruiting class that you need to say something about here?
I think that we've covered, the guys that I'm really excited about. I feel like I've downplayed Wiggins too much. He could be a superstar. Just, he's still a high school body. So, got to build that up. But, I like what they're doing. I'm glad that Franklin is going with familiarity, emphasizing physicality, and seems to have an understanding of the needs from a roster construction standpoint. He found a left tackle that can be developed. Now you have to find a left tackle to keep Grunk Meer or whoever the starting quarterback will end up being ambulatory this season, and allow him to develop. I think that the big takeaway is what can you do to build on this after you get the new coach bump? Can you continue to recruit? Everybody talks about recruiting inside the footprint. I think they need to expand the footprint. And the way the class was made up, I think Franklin did a good job of balancing getting the Virginia kids that made sense, while at the same time going out and getting talent. Because if you rely on Virginia High School League football to be successful in this day and age, they're just not producing the caliber of athletes or the prepared athletes in terms of the coaching they're receiving to be difference makers. Where Rock Hill, South Carolina, or the DC private school network, or there in Pennsylvania, those pieces, you're going to get much more ready to play.
And it's very
physically mature
position
players.
dependent too, right? Like when it
Absolutely.
comes to offensive linemen or quarterbacks or what, sometimes you have to go outside the box.
Yeah.
And
Has there been a top end Power 5 quarterback from the Commonwealth of Virginia since, again, the kid that they had at Penn State a few years back, McSorley?
McSorley, exactly.
The state just doesn't produce offensive linemen and quarterbacks. It doesn't.
Yeah. Or they don't go to the right places to build on whatever they've done, and it doesn't work with a coach or whoever. There's a multitude of reasons, but we haven't seen it. And you're seeing us grab these offensive linemen, some from Virginia, but Michigan, New Jersey, we're going to find them. And
go and fill the need.
Yeah.
No more excuses.
And I do love the fact that he just was like, yeah, give me every offensive lineman you can get, because maybe we might have a true freshman starting on the O-line next year. Like we don't know. Like we gotta see how this portal shakes out and who ends up returning. But we had a red shirt as our center last year, and he ended up being pretty damn good. And there is other talented guys, the guys that Moore brought over from West Virginia. Like we're hoping some of those guys stick around and develop, but you got to throw bodies at the problem.
Absolutely. And offensive line's a developmental position. And in the portal this day and age, with what they're paying, you're not going to get a lot of ready-made first team, all ACC caliber offensive linemen on 1-year deals. It's just not going to happen. So you have to have an archetype, find kids that fit the archetype, that fit personality, have the understanding of the system, and build them up.
Absolutely. Well, French, you've been great. I want to ask you what's going on at TKP. What can people expect from you in the off season, or do they need to wait to the season? What's happening over there?
Oh, so, much busier than we've been in the last couple of off seasons. We've got a series of articles highlighting some of the key position groups in this recruiting class. We have a article in the can ready to go for Grunk Meer if and when he commits.
Is that by you?
Yes, I've got that completed. Again, point out everything from some of the struggles on short throws to the pretty deep balls, but the emphasis on got to give him time, because he will get sacked if you're not protecting him well, because he likes to sit in the pocket, and he can move around the pocket, but he's not going to take off running and make a lot of big plays. So that's the first of what I expect to be some pretty intense. I'm going to have a lot of fun when we do a breakdown on Hilson, because his high school film is a treat to watch.
That's
somebody who's been watching, little skinny twitchy guys for a long time, seeing someone his size throwing offensive linemen and shedding blocks and then doing all the stuff that the little twitchy guys did. I'm very, very optimistic about him.
I was texting with Joe after the Franklin news, Joe of the Key Play, and there's been a reinvigoration in everyone these last couple of weeks and months.
I was considering just retiring from it because it was so miserable to watch last year.
I mean, it's been really tough, dude. It's been really tough. And it's so much more life in the program, so much more life in the fan base. We've seen it in our numbers. I'm sure you're seeing it on your end. And you guys can become a Key Players Club member and get all of French's content and all the content that gets written over there. There's Marcolini and Shelton Moss and so many good people. Sam used to write over on the Key Play, and I've been friends with these guys for a long time. So we definitely respect what you guys have done over the years. And we really appreciate you taking an hour out of your night and hopping on the mic with us, man.
Thank you to all your listeners, and thank you to the Key Play readers. It's a great community, and that's why I stick around and do it. As we've all needed collective therapy over the last decade. So
You're damn
you know,
straight.
That's the number one thing this show has provided over the past calendar year.
All right, friends.
Thank
We
you
will
again.
talk to you again soon. Be well. All right.
Thank you all so much.
Bye, buddy.
Have a good evening.
Let me get this off the screen so I can talk to Sam real quick. Oh, wait, I have a new one. Here we go.
There we go.
The basketball game just ended, dude. Were you watching that
Holy
on your phone?
I had it. Yeah, man.
That was awful. That was awful.
Yep, gave up a 17-3 run at the end of the game to lose by 1. Missed their last 5 shots, I believe, and did not get to the free throw line.
We missed a
Only
free
got to
throw.
the free throw. Got to the free throw line once and went 1 of 2. Ended up losing by 1. A Corey for Stanford, who's their best player, went off. He had 31 points. It's classic Virginia
And
Tech.
he started slow too. He wasn't great in the first
it-
half, and then second half came.
This is Virginia Tech basketball. You play a guy and he turns into Steph Curry. Your team chokes at the end of the game, and this is the 3rd consecutive season Virginia Tech has gotten in a hole to start ACC play.
I mean, this was our game. We were leading most of the
game.
They
were playing great.
They were playing really well. We were up by 10 or more at different points, and they blew it. And it stinks.
Yeah, they blew it. That's a really bad loss. Yeah.
We had the win against UVA, because me and Sam haven't talked really much hoops because of all the stuff happening with football. And we're not going to talk a ton here. We're going to sign off in a minute, but like the triple overtime win over UVA was great. Ben Hammond, it's almost
you played like you played like shit in that game too. You got lucky that they couldn't shoot the ball either.
Yeah.
Like this is not a good start to ACC play.
It's annoying because stealing that first game, being undermanned without Toby, without TJ, without Dorn, that was incredible. But that meant you played a 55-minute game. You go to Winston-Salem a couple days later. Both you and I weren't super optimistic going into that game, but they fought like hell, and they damn near pulled that one off, and they can't get it done. And like, that's okay. I was more than pleased with a split through those first 2 games, because you got a Q1 win against your rival. That was fantastic. And tonight at home with a West Coast team coming to Blacksburg, and it's not even a Q2 game. Stanford was in the Q3 thing before this game started, according to the net. And it's not that they were a bad team. They're number 77 in the net. They're probably like in the 70s or 80s in the Ken Palm. But you had to have it. You had to have that game, and you had the lead. And this will happen with teams that are early in conference play. This
This team is going to be on the wrong side of the bubble. 100%. 100% wins the NIT selection show.
That's tough, man. I'm not going there necessarily yet. I mean, we were always going to be on the bubble. We were in the first 4 out before the game even started, according to Lenardi. And so, yes, we are on the wrong side of the bubble, as Sam said, as of right now. There's a lot of games left, a lot of Q1 opportunities left. You lose this game where you screw it up. Well, we need to go screw it up somewhere else. We need to go down to NC State and get a win. We got to go to Miami and get a win. Like, that's what this means now. And no, it's not going to be easy, but Toby, I thought, looked pretty good tonight in his first game back.
Yeah. I mean, you have Cal at home on Saturday. Must-win game. Must-win. Capital M, capital W, must-win game. You travel to SMU. SMU is a pretty darn good team. That's going to be a tough one, but you get them on a weekday night. Maybe you're feeling good. You get Notre Dame at home, and then you get Syracuse on the road. Like, they're winnable games, but this was also one of your winnable games. I don't know, man. I don't know. They got to prove it to me.
You're so pissed right
now.
Well,
I mean, this is 3 freaking no. Like, this is the 3 straight. Like, it's 3 straight.
I mean, I'm not
of
happy.
Mistakes.
We were talking to French, and like I'm watching the shot go down, and I'm just like, oh God, that was.
It's just it's been. This isn't like the first few weeks that this has happened. Like, this has been a multi-year issue.
I know. And they're still coming together. And there's a lot of games still in January. I think we might have 6 or 7 games still left in January. And Cal is playing UVA right now. Got it on the screen here. It's tied up. Cal is now a must win. I mean, we got to win on Saturday at home. Like that, you got to have that one. And Cal's not a bad team. So we'll see what happens there. I did think Toby looked good in his first game back. No signs of an injury, maybe a little rust early, but like he was getting to the rim. He sank one of the first buckets of the game coming off the bench. And so it sucks that we're still without Tyler Johnson, but getting Toby back is big. And this one hurts right now, but let's see how they respond.
It's going to hurt today, and it's going to hurt on Selection Sunday.
At least Stanford just beat Louisville. Let's not Louisville's not. I mean, sorry, Stanford's not a bad team. Like they're a pretty solid team.
They're not. But I'm just, I don't know. I can't with these guys right now.
This is right after the game. It's raw. It burns, and I get that. But we're gonna sign off. It's gonna sign off on a happy note.
Let's end it with a somewhat more positive, right? Like,
sure,
we should get the final Grunk Meer commitment soon here.
Yeah,
like we got to get pen to paper there. Not that it matters in college football, but like we should get pen to paper there soon.
Demond Williams is proving that pen to paper might not even matter. What are you drinking? Did you have a beer tonight?
Oh yes, I did. Shoot. I have a new beer tonight. The Hazius Maximus from Lagunitas.
I like that can.
If you're an ancient history fan, I think this is a play on Flavius Maximus, Roman emperor in like I want to say 380s. Here's a Roman emperor, a Spanish guy, I think.
I'm learning.
It's good. It's just It's a hazy. It says it has grapefruit, excuse me. Definitely does have that grapefruit more than the orange tangerine. So it has the grapefruit in it. It's 9%, which is pretty heavy, but it drinks a lot easier than that. It drinks a lot easier than like the Victory Sour Monkey and stuff like that are also the 9%. So it's a good one. If you want a good hazy and you want something that's not, it's like a little bit higher alcohol content, but not super dark, Lagunitas Hazius Maximus got it at Wegmans. So
awesome, man.
Pretty good.
I like it. I'll have to
get
try
like a 3.5. Like it's fine, but yeah.
Look at this bad boy. Bringing in one of the classics. I got a Master Shredder here from the Veil. They've got literally Master Shredder shredding a guitar on the can, if you're not familiar. Veil is great. Right in Richmond, Scott's Edition. They recently, did they renovate their tap room or did they just move? I can't remember, but it was like around the corner or something. And last time I was there with you, we went to Ardent and then I went to the Veil like in a rainstorm afterwards and was me and my buddy Brian were completely wrecked, just like talking about Jim Druckenmiller, but it was a good time. The Master Shredder is awesome. Like you can see it's a hazy, but it's only 5.5, not too heavy, goes down really easy. And it's close to a perfect beer. I don't think I'll give it a 5.0, but I'll get up there. I mean, I really like it. I'll probably give it a 4 or 5 tonight. It's making me feel good, and it's from a place that we like. So let's go with it. The Master Shredder from the Veil. And I found it in Jersey, which is freaking amazing. Their distribution's getting serious. I've got a good store, but like that's pretty awesome. I can get it up here. Nice. Thank you to French for coming on tonight. That was great. Sam, I'm sorry about the basketball loss. That blows. I'm pissed.
It's all right. We're moving on. We need
moving on to Saturday
here at midnight.
I'm going out for the game on Saturday. We're going to get that win. We're going to get back on track, but this was a good episode. A lot of fun.
Yes. A lot of fun. A lot of positive football news lately.
Absolutely. All right. Make sure you're subscribed to Too Deep on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Set us up for automatic downloads. You can buy us a beer, have it on our screen there, buymeacoffee.com/2deep. The link will be in the description of this video. If you just want to support the show, get us a beer, get us coffee. We'd love you for it. And until next time, go Hokies.